Delays to global vaccine supplies are expected. The world's largest vaccine maker, India, is said to be delaying exports to focus on a surge in domestic infections. And for a closer look, Ramanan Laxminarayan joins us for more. He's from the Center for Disease Dynamics at the University of Washington, and he joins us. Let's get started then. The decision exposes the potential for conflict between domestic consumption and global supply.
Indeed. I think the challenge was that back in October and November, when high-income countries were buying up a lot of vaccine doses, India was not necessarily doing that. So Serum Institute of India, which is India's largest vaccine manufacturer, had basically made commitments to these other countries. But of course, when the vaccine was actually approved, India has a tremendously large population which still needs to be vaccinated. And so there is a tension now between domestic needs and what has been promised abroad, both to COVAX and to specific countries like the UK, which is coming to a fore now.
Mr. Laxminarayan, who's going to suffer the most from this? Who's going to feel the impact? COVAX or the countries with bilateral deals with India?
I would imagine that India would try to honor the COVAX commitments first and foremost. But I think people in India are really, at greatest risk because you have to look at the numbers. To date, about 60 million vaccines have been exported from India. A lot of it which are commercial arrangements, but some which have been provided by India free of cost as humanitarian assistance to other countries. In comparison, to date, only about 50 million vaccine doses have been handed out in India itself. So there's naturally a tension where people in India are asking, why are we exporting so much if we can't meet the needs here? And that's obviously a tough question to answer.
And will this likely increase vaccine inequality?
Well, it already reflects vaccine inequality because you still have something like 80 or 90 countries around the world, perhaps more, where not a single person has received a COVID vaccine, whereas high-income countries have had a lot of vaccines and continue to vaccinate their population. India has been fortunate, of course, to have a domestic vaccine industry, which is why something like 50 million Indians have been vaccinated today. It's still a small proportion of the country. But I think global vaccine inequity is a big issue. And we're talking about a few large players, but there's lots of small countries that are wondering where they are as part of this big picture, and they probably don't find a place at all.
Meantime, the European Union's also meeting to discuss new vaccine export rules. Conditions might be imposed after those discussions, and if they are, what would the impact of that be?
So every country is naturally watching out for itself. Now, the thing about the Indian-made vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, is that it is actually useful in many countries where the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are not useful because those require extremely difficult to manage cold chains, whereas the AstraZeneca vaccine can be managed at 3 to 8 degrees, which is just a refrigerator. So in some sense, lack of exports from these countries is not going to matter as much because many countries cannot use these vaccines. But at this stage, I think the world really needs to pull together and figure out how to help India expand its manufacturing capacity. I think you heard the announcement from the Quad, India, US, Australia, and Japan, announcing that they will manufacture the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in India and make 1 billion doses of it to make it available widely in Southeast Asia. And I wish that such initiatives had come into place earlier, but at least we have them now.
All right, well, thank you very much for your thoughts this evening. Ramanan Laxminarayan from the Center for Disease Dynamics at the University of Washington.